I want to start today by saying thank you to all my constable colleagues across England and Wales who do a fantastic job, which makes British policing the envy of police services around the world. I know that you, like me and all my colleagues in this conference hall today, are proud of this fact and proud of the roles that we play in our communities, where we hold a unique position of policing with their consent. We understand how to be compassionate, how to bring the full force of the law to bear with our strong tradition of fairness within the judicial system. We are omnicompetent and we are professional. All of these skills are now under threat by a government who are not willing to pay a fair price for safety and security in our communities, as the police are set to pay off more of the budget deficit than others in the public sector. All constables understand that savings have to be made across the public sector, but what we don't understand is why the government has not listened to the HMIC, who said that the service could not be sustained if the cuts were higher than 12%, and then went on to impose 20% cuts, higher than cuts made elsewhere. When policing is asked to pay such a high price, then everyone has to understand the consequences. Those consequences are that public safety and security are at risk, and that law and order in England and Wales is off the government's agenda. When a government acts in such a cavalier manner with the safety of its citizens, by ignoring those who inspect the service, we have a right to know why. Our communities have a right to know why, and the HMIC, who are against such massive cuts, also have a right to know why. Is it because we can't fight back by withdrawing our labour like other public sector workers? Or is it because they simply don't care about the safety of our communities? When they need to find money for other initiatives, they manage to find it. The government needs to explain why money is being taken from the police when it should be a basic fundamental right for every citizen in England and Wales to feel safe. Sadly, with all that is happening to the police right now, they cannot, as the government are not willing to pay the price for safety and security at home. What is really worrying, though, is that the cost cutting is being dressed up as modernising the service. If the police service was being modernised, then that would be supported by every constable in England and Wales. The reality is the government are acting in a dysfunctional manner by dealing piecemeal with the police service. Lord Hutton is looking at pensions, Mr Windsor, terms and conditions of service, and there is still more to come from Mr Windsor, as we are now to begin consulting on part 2 of his review. And also the recently retired Chief Constable, Peter Neyrud, is reviewing leadership and training. On top of this, the government doesn't even know what it's cutting. They say the front line won't be affected by the cuts, then call in the HMIC to work out what the front line is. Yet another review. Now the work has been done, the jury is still out. If they really wanted to know and understand what the front line of policing is, all they had to do was ask us, constables. We know because we are the front line. We may be diminishing due to the cuts, but we are the face and the front line of policing. We are the people who, by our very presence and professionalism, provide safety and security. However, you cannot cut police constables' pay and cut our numbers and expect policing to carry on as usual. As we all know, the impact is that police officer morale is at an all-time low. Some joined-up thinking may have helped the process if reform, not savage cuts, were the aim. For example, what do we want the police service in the 21st century to deliver? Can you believe it? No one is looking at that. No review there then. Why? Because we have to deliver the same or more for less. I say to the government and ACPO, get real. Fewer constables cannot make vulnerable people feel safe, cannot arrest the same number of criminals, cannot provide reassurance, cannot counter the terror threat, cannot deal with drugs and antisocial behaviour, cannot prevent human trafficking, another pan-European crime, cannot prevent domestic violence and child abuse, and cannot keep motorists safe. We know the list goes on and on. We cannot deliver all of this to the same high standards as we did when we were properly valued and supported. The public have a right to have these matters dealt with effectively by the police. Constables have a right to be safe while policing. While ever police numbers continue to drop and we become more vulnerable as we go about our already difficult and dangerous job. The government say it's not about officer numbers, but how we are deployed. How many ministers would like to patrol our inner cities alone, with no idea when backup would come should they need it? That's when officer numbers count.